Hi and welcome to this Digital Juice tutorial. My name is Flo from flowmotion.eu. Today I'm going to show you one of the new products of Digital Juice, which is called animated shoulder sets. So let me quickly tell you what I will show you today, or what you will learn today. We start with setting up our project and bring some green screen footage in, and I show you how you can key it, and I also talk about some special keying techniques. And at that point in time the project would normally be finished, but we will bring this a step further. At first I will show you how you can track the motion of the background to make this look more vivid. And after that I'm also going to show you how you can push your keying even one step further by adding a light wrap effect. And as a last step I'm going to show you how I did my color correction. So let's directly get started. At first we have to open up our juicer. And inside here let's go to projects and templates. And here of course we want to select the After Effects projects. And I'm just selecting the animated shoulder sets, and here I have all of them, and by clicking on them I get this thumbnail view and I can directly see what this will look like later on. So let's click through a few of them, and I think I will take this one, this passive resistance, because as you can see it has this kind of 3D motion in it, so it looks like the camera is slowly zooming in, and that is what I will later on use for my motion tracking. So let's pause this one and bring it into After Effects, and to do that you just have to go on your project on the AE button. This is really easy to do. Just click on it, and here you have sent project to After Effects, and we want to open it as a new project. And here we just click send now because we want this to be a full HD project. And here we have our project inside After Effects, and at first normally you would save it, but this time let's go to File, Collect Files. Now we select a folder where we want to store it: Flowmotion, Digital Juice, Tutorials, Animated Shoulder Sets. And the first thing we have to do here is to save our project. So I call this one Shoulders 001 and hit save. And now it asks me if I want to collect all my source files, and of course I want to do that, so I hit collect and go to the same folder, which is Digital Juice, Tutorials, Animated Shoulder Sets, where I also have my project file, and hit save once again. And as it is finished, let's just open up our Explorer to see what this has done. And here we have our project and a new created folder with once again our project file as a copy in it, and all of the footage which is inside this project. Perfect and super organized. Okay, let's go back to After Effects. And now we can bring in our elements by simply double clicking inside the project window. Once again tutorials, and I have all my assets here, which is my green screen presenter, which I have recorded in front of a green screen, and the video files that I want to bring in later. And I just open them and also bring them into my elements folder to keep everything organized. And now I create a new composition for my green screen footage by just dragging this one over this new composition icon. And as you can see, I haven't filmed her in the normal direction, but I rotated the camera around 90 degrees, and this is just because the presenter fills out the frame way better, and so we can benefit of the extra pixels which we are recording, which is perfect for green screen keying. So, but the first thing before we start keying is to do a noise reduction. So if we zoom into the screen here and now hit Alt and 2, we just see the green channel of this footage, and as you can see, it is very noisy. And by the way, by hitting Alt 1 you get the red channel, 2 is green, Alt 3 is blue, and Alt 4 is the alpha channel, and by hitting it just once again you get back to the normal view. So, and all of this noise is later on not that good for the keying process, so let's just quickly do a noise reduction on it. Let's make this a bit bigger and type in grain, and we want to remove the grain. And by the way, for this tutorial I'm trying just to use built-in plugins and no third-party plugins, because in this way all of you can easily follow along and later on recreate all of this. Okay, we have the remove grain applied to our footage by dragging it onto the footage, and in the effect controls we have all the parameters. And right now you can see that the footage is still noisy, and this is because when I zoom out again with my mouse wheel, by the way, I can see that the remove grain effect has this preview window where the effect gets applied, and you can directly see that over here on the left side there's a lot of grain, and on the right side no grain. But we can change this viewing mode to the final output, and then it gets applied to the whole composition or the whole footage. And when I zoom in on the green and now turn on and off the effect, you can see what it is doing. And when we just take a look at the channel, you can maybe see it even better. Okay, now we can start with the keying. But as you saw, this effect really takes a time to render, and so one thing I did for the sake of this tutorial, I just rendered this footage clip once again with the remove grain effect applied, so that I can just work a bit faster. So let's just close this presenter 04 and bring in this green screen presenter DN, which means denoised. Just for me as a small hint. So let's drag this one over the new composition icon, and as you can see it is denoised, and now we can also rotate it so that we can see it in a normal view. For that we just hit W and then we can rotate it, and if you hold down Shift it snaps each 45 degrees. And when you go to composition settings, we can also adjust the width and height of this. We just have to change those values. So now it's 1080 by 1920. Okay, and before I start to key now, I would always advise you to draw a quick garbage mask around everything, because sometimes the green screen isn't lit that even and you don't want to key out all of it, because in first place you want to key out the green that is next to her. So you can just draw a quick mask. Quickly scrub through this if she's in the frame all the time, and here she's going outside a bit, so I just reposition the mask a bit. Okay, looks like she's always in the frame. Okay, and now we can finally apply the key light effect. Just type in key light and I just drag it onto the footage. And as I said, I want to take a green that is close to her. So just take this eyedropper and click next to her. And just by that we get a really good result. But when we hit Alt +4 now for the alpha channel, you can see that there are some areas that we have to work on. So let's go into the screen matte settings and just clip the white a bit. And over here there's also a bit of a gray color, so let's just bring in the blacks a bit. And it's already looking really nice. We can now also maybe bring the white back a bit. Perfect. And for now I would just go back into the normal view by hitting Alt+4 again. And maybe feather this mask just a bit. So when you have your clip selected and hit the F key, you get the feather parameters for your mask. And let's just feather this about 10 pixels. Okay, and to keep it organized, we can now just crop our composition by going onto this region of interest button. And to crop it now, we go to Composition, Crop Comp to Region of Interest. Okay, and now we can close our presenter and start working in our final composition. So now we just have to bring our presenter back in. Just drag it over everything. Scale her down a bit by hitting S. And now I just bring her somehow in the same position like the dummy presenter. And we can uncheck the visibility of our dummy presenter because we don't need him now. It looks really nice and was very easy and simple to do. So now let's bring some elements for this monitor into place. And to do that, we take a look at our project and we see here that it says open the comp to replace the video. And to open the comp, we have to double click it. And here it says Alt plus drag the video source from your project window. So let's do that. We have this video 1. So I select the first drop zone, hit down Alt, and bring the video 1 onto this layer. And if I let go, it has replaced this drop zone dummy with my video. And I just have to scale it up a bit because you can see it doesn't fill out the frame. So I hit scale and just roughly scale it up. And if I don't like the timing of the video, I can just hit the Y key and now I can push it back and forward. But as you can see, the length and the position of this layer stays the same, but just the content changes. This is a really cool and handy trick. So, perfect. Let's just do the same thing for the second drop zone. I have to select it, hold down the Alt key, take the video 2 and drag it onto here. And let go. And it has already updated. So I also scale this one up to 150 and also find a new position in time. Okay, and now we can close all of this and go back into our passive resistance, so into our final composition. And when I now make a quick ramp review, you can see that we already have a nice looking result. And all we have done is apply the key light effect and brought in 2 videos. Just amazing. But now let's start to bring this one step further. The first thing that I saw in this ramp preview was that I have this black line. So let's quickly adjust this one. And it is inside my presenter composition, I think. And here I have it. So what we can do here is just position our presenter a bit more to the right. And that should fix the problem. Yeah, you can see now it is gone. So until now everything was pretty standard. Now I want to show you some of the things that I have done so that you can benefit from my workflows and my techniques and also from the effects that I am going to show you today. When I watched the first ramp review, I recognized that this video doesn't really look like it is 3D inside of this monitor, because this blue frame just cuts out the video, so the video doesn't really look like real 3D. So let's take a look on how we can fix or improve that. So let's go down here to the video zone, and here we can see that we have a mat for it. And if we just solo the mat, you can see that there really is just this that cuts out our video. So my first idea was, why not switch out this white solid with the video? Because as you can see, this white solid is 3D and our video zone isn't. So let's try this. Just double click the mat, and here you can see that we have a few 3D layers and a camera, so I guess we're on the right place. And it looks like this white solid is our mat, so let's also open this mat solid. And here we can see that this is a composition where we just have this white solid. And as we already have our videos brought in place and also fixed the timing of the videos, we can maybe benefit from that. So let's go into our compositions structure and go to the video zone. And now let's just bring it out here. And if I solo them, I can see that I have my videos with the right timing in here. And all I have to do now is to use this white solid as a alpha mat for the video zones. So later on I want to see everything that is now lying under the white solid. And to do that, we can go to our track mats. And for the video zone, we want an alpha mat. If I toggle this switch for the transparency grid, you can see that now everywhere where the white solid would be, there's now our video and the rest is cut off. And this is exactly what we wanted. So we can close this one, also close our mat and go back into the passive resistance. And when we scrub through it now, you can see that it looks a bit strange because we have changed the mat, and now this is why we have to enable the visibility of our mat. And here we go. Everything's in place, and as you can see now, the video really lies in 3D, as you can see by this horizon line here, that it goes now into the depth. Perfect, exactly what we wanted. And for now, we can also turn off our video zone. So the next step, as I told you in the beginning of this tutorial, is to do some motion tracking. Because if we just take a look at the background video, you can see that it has this 3D motion in it. So let me just show you how you use a motion tracker and how motion tracking works. And I'm going to show you just the basics of it. And once you've understood the basics, I think you will use motion tracking in many of your projects. So let's get started. To do that, you just have to click on the layer that you want to track, go to Animation, Track in Mocha for After Effects. And Mocha just comes along with your After Effects version, and it's really easy. You just have to select your layer, click on Track in Mocha, and it will automatically open up your tracking software for you. And here I can see all of the settings of my project. And for now I just click OK. And this is how Mocha looks when you open it up the first time, and it looks a bit confusing and there are so many buttons. But let me tell you something, this is really easy and you don't have to be afraid of it. I just now show you the really easiest way to track a motion, and it works just perfect. To do that, you click on this Create X Spline Layer tool and just draw a mask around the area that you want to track. So in this case, I'm just selecting this area here, because over here we have the most pixel information on the tracking and scaling and the new position of the objects and so on. And you can always change everything by just dragging those handles here. But for now this looks fine, and all we have to do now is to go to the tracking buttons over here and just drag it forwards. But before we do that, we can take a look over here to the pixels that are used, and the more percent of pixels that you're using, the more accurate your track will be, but also the longer it will take you to track this clip. So for now, I just bring this up to about 60%. But if you want to do this really precise and have a lot of time, you can really crank this up to about 90 or even 95. And to do that, you just have to make circles around the number. It's a bit funny, but that's how it works. So let's just bring this about 60 and just track forwards. So as you can see, this really takes some time to calculate all of this. And so for now, let's just stop it, because I have done this once before and we can use this data. But I still want to show you the workflow, how you get your tracking data out of Mocha. And this is one of the easiest things to do. Just go to File, Export Tracking Data. And now you could copy to the clipboard, but the best way is always to save it so you can use it later on. So I hit Save. And once again go into my Digital Juice folder, Tutorials, Motion Tracking, and I already have this motion track here. So let's just call this one 02 and hit Save. And that's it for Mocha. So let's switch back to After Effects. In here, all we have to do is to create a new layer, a new null object. And if you would have copied it to your clipboard, you would now just have to go to Edit, Paste. But for now, we go into our Explorer, open up our text file, and as you can see, here are all the data for each frame. We just select everything, copy it via Edit, Copy, go back to After Effects, we select our null object, go to Edit, Paste. And if we take a look now, our null object, which is represented by this square over here, is now moving along. Really nice and really easy. That's really the simplest way of motion tracking. You just have to be aware to always go to the first frame. So if we take a look at the keyframes for the null object, you can see that it has applied all of the keyframes. And if we would have had our cursor somewhere over here and would have gone to Edit, Paste, it would have started pasting all of the keyframes from this position. And now let's call this one the tracking data. Now we can unsolo them. And we want to connect our monitor to this tracking data so that the monitor is also flying in. So to do that, at first we have to find all the layers which make up our monitor. And when we have found all of them, we pre-compose them and then just parent the composition to our tracking data. And the best way to do that is always by soloing the layers. And always when I have found one of the layers, I just change the color. And I think that I have now found all of them, and now I select all of them and pre-compose them. But you have to be aware of one thing, because one of the layers is a 3D layer which reacts to a camera. So let's find the camera in the project and simply duplicate it by hitting Ctrl D, or by going to Edit, Duplicate. And now I select this camera together with all the layers. Go to Layer, Pre-compose. It's all the way down here, but you could also use the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-C, and this will make a new composition. And we call it the monitor, and hit OK. And let's unsolo it. And once again, now we go to the first frame, right click in here for the columns, and we want the parents also to be visible. Okay, and we just take this pick whip here, and we want the monitor to be a child of the tracking data. When we now just solo the monitor, you can see that it is also coming closer to the camera. Perfect. But we're not finished with this motion tracking step of our animation, because all of those lens flares and the lights, as you can see here, are also positioned on the monitor. So for this animation I would also parent all of them to the tracking data. So let's just find those flares and also parent them to the tracking data. And also this one, I think. Okay, now our animation is set up. So what else can we do to make this look even better? So as I also told you in the beginning, I want to show you a few more advanced keying techniques and a few more tricks and tips on how to improve a key and to make it look more convincing. And the keyword for that is a light wrap. And for those of you who are wondering what a light wrap is, I'm just quickly showing it to you by using a third-party plugin so that you get an impression of what it is doing, and then I show you how you can do it from scratch. So to do that, I select my green screen presenter, edit, copy, make a new composition, 1920 by 1080, and just paste her in. In this way she just sits on the same position. And I copy the background and also bring it into this new composition. And let's call this composition our light wrap. And for the effects and presets, let's type in light wrap and bring it onto our presenter. I also pre-compose our presenter so that it has the same composition dimensions. And hit OK. Now I'm applying the light wrap effect to this composition. And as you can see here on the effect controls, you can choose a background layer. And for the background, of course, I want to have my passive resistance background, as I want the light from the background to interact with the presenter to make her look like she's really sitting in this studio here. So let's select the passive resistance background. And you can directly see when I'm turning it on and off that the light is wrapping around her. And when I change the viewing mode to wrap only and solo it, you can see what it is doing. It is projecting the background just on the borders of the presenter. When I turn the background on and off, you can see that it really is the background. Okay, and we want to create this without using any third-party plugin. So let's delete this one. And to make it more obvious for you, I just tint my presenter by typing in tint, and let's just make it red and red. Call it red. I duplicate it and call this one green and just make it green. Now I can take this eyedropper here and select the same green. Now I have a green and red presenter and they are sitting on top of each other. Okay. The next thing that we can do now is to shrink the green one so that the red line is coming out. And to do that we can use a choker effect, simple choker, bring it on the green and just bring it out as much as we want. About 2.2 looks fine. And now we also want to feather it. And for that we can use a channel blur, bring it out here, and for the channel we want the alpha channel, and we just blur it a bit. Maybe just like so. Now to just get the red part of this image, we once again can use a drag matte, and for the red we want the green one to be an alpha inverted matte, so everything that is green doesn't stay but gets cut off. And here we have it. It is just the out border of our presenter, and when we go into the green composition we can always modify it by feather it more or make it thicker or thinner with the choker. And the last step is to pre-compose this. I call this one the light wrap matte. And as a last step we have our background, and this time we use the light wrap matte as an alpha matte. And there we have it. Like before, we just have the out borders of our presenter and they represent the background. Perfect. And now we can close the light wrap, also our presenter, and this one also. Go back into our passive resistance, and now we bring the light wrap over our presenter. And as you can see, now the light is wrapping around her. Maybe we have to tweak this a little bit. We can always do that by hitting T for opacity and just bring this down a bit so the effect doesn't get that obvious. And we want this to be just a saddle effect, so about 25% will be okay. And this really makes a difference. Really, really nice. And you just have to be aware that when you later on want to use a different background, you just have to go into your light wrap composition and also change this background. So next step, I want to work a bit more on our monitor. So I just solo it. And as you can see, when it is flying in, that doesn't look that real because the monitor is missing some motion blur. So we have to apply an effect called force motion blur. For that I go into the monitor composition and I just take a look on the one clip that has this movement in it. And I just drag it on that clip. And you can see when I scrub through it now that it does absolutely nothing. In order to see the effect of the force motion blur effect, you have to turn on the frame blending. So once you have to turn it on for your layer and also for the whole composition. And now it still looks strange. You just have to understand that when you turn on frame blending, it just calculates in between each frame. And now it has to calculate way more frames than normal. And this is why it automatically sets all of this just to draft quality. So you just see 2 frames instead of the many frames which make up this nice effect. And in order to see them, you have to click the frame blending switch once again, because now you can see it is pixeled the line, and now if you click it again, it's a straight line. And now it already starts to look way better. So let me zoom in here that we can see it. And now we have the settings. We have the motion blur samples and the shutter angle. Motion blur samples just defines how many frames are blended in. So if I type in 2, you can see it's 2 frames which make up the effect. If I type in 4, it's 4 frames. And the higher we go, the smoother this effect will look and the longer it will take to render. And now the shutter angle. The degree values come from the old film cameras where there was real film in it and no digital data, and this film needed to be exposed. So for that they created some kind of disc in front of the film which was always spinning. So let's say if you filmed at 25 frames per second, the wheel or the disc was spinning 25 times a second. So 1 spin for each frame. And you need to expose your film, so they cut the disc in half. So it was just 180 degrees of this disc, as you can see here. And as it is spinning, it is exposing the film for the duration of half a frame. So 180 degrees of the circle is half of the circle, so the exposure time for 25 frames with 180 degrees is 1/50th of a second. And so if you make the cutting smaller and just 90 degrees, it gets exposed even shorter. So the higher the degree value is, the longer it gets exposed and the more motion blur you get. So back in After Effects, this means if we now crank this one up to 360 degrees, we have more motion blur. I'm taking this to draft quality again. And normally when you're working, you can also just keep this value up high. And when we have done that, we can copy this effect by hitting Ctrl C for copy and just paste it on our monitor when it is flying out at the end. And also here we have to turn on the frame blending. Okay. And this is everything that I have adjusted for my animation. The last part of this tutorial will just be that I show you real quick how I did my color corrections, how I made my final look with a new background. And at the end I'm going to show you how I did this zoom where the camera is at the end of the animation flying into the monitor that it gets full screen. So for that, let's go back into our main composition. And the first small thing that I have done is I have adjusted the color of the presenter to get those different blue tones from the monitor and from her jacket closer together. For that, I have taken the saturation and hue effect, brought it onto the green screen presenter, and I want to change the saturation or the value of the blue tone. So I just go to the channel controls and take the blues. Those squares define the blue tone and those triangles define the fall off. So now let's try to find this tone. I think could be somewhere over here. And now just go to the hue wheel and try to get the same color, or so to say a more matching color. And now it really matches to our monitor. And now let's start with an overall color correction. For that, I always use adjustment layers. So I brought out an adjustment layer and I take one for my contrast, another one by hitting Ctrl D for a glow effect that I want to apply, as everything of this is really bright, and it will also work quite good with our light wrap effect here because it's also boosting the light more over our presenter here. And as a third one, I wanted to bring the overall saturation a bit more down to give it a more natural look, because the first adjustment layer changes our contrast. For the contrast, we just take a levels effect and bring in the whites and blacks. And I do this on an adjustment layer because the adjustment layer now changes the levels for all of the layers beneath it. So in this case, all of the clips and the whole animation looks more combined and more connected as one single clip. So let's go on. Next one, as I told you, would be a glow effect. And I have the glow effect over the contrast because now I have more in the whites for the glow effect. So let's type in glow and we bring it out. And by default, the glow effect is just too strong. So we go to the glow threshold, and this value defines which color values it takes for the glow. So when I bring it up to 100%, it's white, and to 0, it takes all of the colors to glow. And as we just want our highlights to glow, let's maybe go to 94. And bring up the glow radius. Down with the intensity, but all of this is really up to you. I just wanted to show you another cool effect which brings different layers closer together. And as this one is applied on an adjustment layer, the glowing of the white background now goes over the foreground element, which is the presenter. And if I turn it on and off, you can see what it is doing. Okay, maybe this is a bit too much, and we can always adjust this once again with the opacity of our layer. So let's bring this down to maybe 50%. And as a last effect, as I told you before, I'm going to take the tint effect. But I'm not using it in a normal way, as you would expect, because the tint effect just tints everything. I just go down with the amount, and in this way, we'll see what it is doing. It's just desaturating the clip. As with the contrast and the glow, everything looks a bit strange. She almost has orange skin tones, and I just bring this down again. Maybe to 20%. And if I turn it on and off, you can see that her skin now looks more natural again. And at the end of my animation, I just thought, okay, now everything is really super bright. And as I have adjusted the blues and everything is color matching somehow, I want to have another different background. I just bring out some new elements, and they are also from Digital Juice, from the Animated Canvases collection. So I just searched for some of them which had also red and blues in it, because those are the main colors in here. And I think I will go for this one. And just change it out by hitting down Alt and bring it onto this layer. And now you just don't have to forget to copy this layer, edit, copy, and go back into your light wrap. Delete the passive resistance background and paste this new one in. I just make a pre-composition out of it because I have scaled it over the normal composition size. Call this one light wrap 2. once again use it as an alpha matte. And everything is looking really nice again. As a very last step, I made my animation look at the end as if the monitor is flying in full screen. And for that I just took the whole passive resistance composition, brought it into a new one, and at the end where I wanted my zoom to happen, I hit P for position keyframes, went forward a few frames, scaled it up by hitting S and scale, and just roughly positioned it so that it fits in the frame. And now we are missing something here. But there's also a cool trick for that, because we have this collapse transformation switch here, which is by default not activated. And what this does, it looks in the pre-composition for all the information and 3D information. And as all of this is in pre-compositions, and I know that I have one pre-composition with the full monitor in it, let's just quickly hit it. And here we have the rest of our composition. And now to get the final zoom, I used a corner pin effect. And at the first frame, I set a few keyframes, went to the next keyframe for my position, and what I can do now is just go into those four corners and stretch them out until they fit into the frame. And to make this even more convincing, I went into the project window again to my pre-renders, and here I have all of this lens flares. And I just bring it out, add the transform mode again, so I have to bring the modes up again. Maybe to screen, or even add. And as the corner pin effect starts, also my lens flares come in. And that's it for this animated shoulder sets animation tutorial. And by the way, while watching this tutorial, don't forget to leave a comment for a chance to win a prize on this page here. For now, I just have to say thanks for watching. This was Flo from FlowMotion. Just feel free to also go onto my page, flowmotion.eu, get inspired by some of my work, or just watch some After Effects tutorials. And for now, I wish you a lot of fun with the animated shoulder sets.